Hey folks, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation, back with another weekly coach podcast check-in. This week, I'm talking to you a little bit about the role of hydration in successful workouts. People think about hydration, they think about calories when it comes time to competition, when it comes time to race day, but they don't necessarily think about it during those workouts, and that's a critical mistake and something that we can remedy pretty quickly in today's conversation. Before I dive in, I just wanted to give you a heads up that not only is membership open to Endurance Nation and EnduranceNation.us, but also our training camps are back in full swing. I am freshly off the plane from Mallorca after 7 days of training, 523 miles, 29,757 feet of climbing, and just an epic time. We'll be back there in 2023 in April, but we also have events in Virginia this year, and elsewhere as well. You can go check those out at Mile 18 Inc. That's mile18inc.com. We can learn more about our training camps and get involved in the team, of course, at endurancenation.us. All right. Thanks for letting me shill that a little bit. So back to today's conversation about hydration. Why does hydration matter so much in workouts? Are you talking about it, Coach, because we're getting warmer? Well, it's kind of springtime. It's a little bit warmer, but honestly, we're at that inflection point right now where probably you training indoors is hotter than you training outdoors. Just simply because it's not as cold as it was in the winter. It's warm enough, and it's warm enough outside, and that confluence is leading you to sweat. But if you went outside, it'd be cool. So this sort of space where we're transitioning from indoors to outdoors becomes a time when it's important for us to reflect a little bit about the hydration, but just in general, as we think about hydration status, and the effects of dehydration on athletic performance, it's important to note how critical fluids, hydration, your ability to urinate, I love saying that on my podcast, is really critical to you being successful. So when we get down to race day, so we'll start with race day as an example, because everyone really tunes in when I say race day. On race day, if you are dehydrated, you can expect your performance at an endurance level in an Ironman or in a long bike ride, anything over like 5 hours, to significantly decrease. Studies have shown that athletes who normally have, say, 2 hours worth of endurance zone 2 level work inside their systems, when they're dehydrated, they lost more than 5% of their body mass to fluids, which is a lot. They end up cutting that time almost in half, right? They lose half that time simply because of where they're at. But also, when you're dehydrated like that in a bigger state, there's other consequences as well that are really important to think about. We have that reduction in blood volume. We have decreased skin blood flow. I'm reading these off to you. Decreased sweat rate, decreased heat dissipation. We want that heat to get off of us, but when we're not sweating as much, we're not dissipating the heat off our body. Increased core temperature, which brings a host of poor outcomes for all of us, and increased rate of muscle glycogen use. Like your body has to work harder at that rate. So dehydration is massive and an issue that we need to address. But what we don't talk about in that context is chronic dehydration, which is where training aspects come in. So the majority of athletes are also on some level chronically dehydrated, right? So if fluid is your delivery source for calories, but let's say you're riding in the morning, but you're intermittent fasting, so you're not really taking fluids in, you may not be drinking a bottle of water. As a result, you're exiting that workout a little dehydrated. Probably not too bad. You probably rode maybe an hour and a half, so not super dehydrated, but you're carrying that dehydration into your day when you're drinking coffee. Maybe you have 2 cups of coffee in a day, you're having lunch, maybe with a soft drink. You still haven't had water yet. You're in the afternoon, you might have a drink of something, like maybe you have like a seltzer or something like that, and then you're off to your afternoon workout and you go home. In the course of that day, you've had lots of fluids, but only one of them, technically, the seltzer, is probably more water-like. And the net result is that in that second workout of the day, you're carrying as much, if not more, dehydration from earlier session into that later session. And we have what is known as a compounding effect, right? Where all of a sudden we're existing at this lower level of hydration, which is impeding our ability to recover. It's impeding our ability to actually perform in these workouts. And so effectively, it's undermining our overall development cycle. And the best part is it's easy to fix. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what that means to fix for you. In general, science, USA Olympic website, recommends that endurance athletes consume between 20 to 40 ounces per hour in training sessions that last an hour or longer of fluid. So those 2 bike bottles, for those of you who are triathletes or cyclists, so you know. So after an hour, an exercise that lasts an hour, you should be expecting to take in roughly about a bottle an hour-ish of fluids, especially in normal warmer days, to be able to offset the fluid loss that's coming from the work, the exertion, the sweating, all the experiences that you're having relative to your endurance efforts, right? Okay. Now, that fluid ideally has a mixture of carbohydrates and some electrolytes in it as well. We typically side with Gatorade Endurance is a simple solution, as sweet as it may be. Some people prefer a lighter version, which may be something like Noon or Noon Endurance, which gets you those electrolytes, but then you're going to have to eat those calories instead of just drink those calories. I don't mind if you have to eat the calories, as long as you're getting the fluid in that we're talking about here, and roughly that 20 ounce per half hour in the longer endurance events that last longer than an hour. All right. So, what are some ways we can focus on this hydration? So, number one is just be hydrated during your day, like super simple. If you have a cup of coffee, then after your cup of coffee, empty that out and fill it up with water and drink that back in water. It's a diuretic. You're going to lose the fluid anyway. So replace that water at the outset, get up, go right to the water as we will. It's super important. The next piece is to understand that when that afternoon workout, for example, even the morning workout, getting some fluid into your system so your body can use it. So if you've got an afternoon workout, you're going to get home at 5 o'clock, you're going to be working out, 5:30 to 6:30. Then in that 4 o'clock window, 3:30 to 4 o'clock window, we're starting to prehydrate, prepare ourselves for the work that's coming. And we can drink something that has a little bit of electrolytes in it. Like a Noon would be perfect for this. Like a little bit of electrolytes, not really that many calories we're getting ready. During the activity, as you mentioned, you're basically trying to keep up with that sweat rate of your activity as much as possible. The closer we get to your race, even when the workouts are short, we're hitting those hydration benchmarks for us. If you need to drink a bottle in half an hour for you on the bike, even if you're doing a short bike during the week, we're still going to drink a bottle in a half hour because we're building the reflex to do that. We're building a habit so that we know you're going to take in the fluid that you need, as opposed to relying on thirst or other indicators to let you know it's time to drink. We have to build a system around what we know you're going to be losing. Okay. Obviously, for smaller people, kids, it modifies a little bit, something for you to think about. And the idea being that anytime you're going for 2 hours or more, that you're probably having to stop and pee at the 2 hour mark. So if you ran for 2 hours and the second hour you drank your 40 ounces of fluid, you're probably going to have to pee somewhere in there if you're doing it right. That's kind of the cycle we're looking for roughly every 2 hours in general from my experience. Right. And then finally, don't forget about recovery. A huge part of recovery is also hydration. We talk about chocolate milk and protein shakes and things like that, but fluid also matters. It helps the cells sort of get back to a happy homeostasis where they can start to repair themselves on a muscular and cellular level and allow you to sort of prepare for that next session. It's going to allow you to get better sleep outcomes, better digestion, all of those pieces. So you can go ahead and weigh yourself pre-post and understand how much fluid you've lost, and then understand that sort of in that 1% to 2% range of sort of total percentage loss is fine. If I weigh 200 pounds and I lose, something in the range of like 2 pounds, then it's not super bad. But if I've lost 3 pounds or 4 pounds, I've really got to work to get that fluid back to make sure that I'm doing well. And it's those recovery drinks that have some electrolytes in it. It's going to help that water pass from my stomach through the lining into my body and allow me to get back into that restorative place. And in general, we want to be paying attention to our post-workout situation, especially for those longer sessions. If you're finishing that long ride and you didn't pee on the long ride, then you haven't peed for like 2 hours, you're totally dehydrated because your body is not functioning properly given all that you've had to consume. That's something we need to then go ahead and change things up, take more fluids in, make sure that we're staying on track. Again, the goal is hydration first, calorie second, and that hydration muscle is something we can work on in training, which will yield better training outcomes, better recovery between training sessions, and then ultimately that will contribute to a better race day as well. Not just from nutrition execution, but simply from showing up rested and being in an optimal state, starting the race itself. And it all starts with hydration. All right. If you've got questions, let us know. Facebook.com/Endurance. Hit us up on Twitter, Twitter.com/Team EN. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys inside the team on the forums at EnduranceNation.us. Be well, take care, have a fantastic week. I'll see you.